Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Fluent English with Radio. Today, I want to share with you something that will completely change how you think about success and achievement. Let me start with a question that might hit close to home. Why do you set goals every year but give up after just 1 month? If this sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, 99% of people fall into the same trap. Picture this. It's January 1st. You watch an inspiring video. You feel amazing, energized, and ready to conquer the world. This surge of motivation feels incredible. Your dopamine levels are shooting through the roof, and every cell in your body believes that this year will be different. You feel so powerful that you could move mountains with your bare hands, but this excitement leads you straight into the failure loop. First, you try to change everything overnight. Because you are so motivated, you go extreme. You commit to exercising 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. You promise to study English for 3 hours every single day. Second, you rely on high intensity. You act like a warrior. You pour 100% of your energy into these massive goals. Third, you hit burnout. Around day 5, reality hits. Your body aches. Your brain is tired. You realize you were sprinting, not running a marathon. Your energy is completely gone. Finally, you surrender. The motivation disappears. You start making excuses like, I'll start again on Monday. The chain breaks, and you end up exactly where you started. Here's the brutal truth that most people never understand. The problem isn't that you lack willpower or dedication. The problem is that you're trapped in a cycle that sets you up for failure from the very beginning. You're waiting for motivation to create intensity instead of using consistency to build lasting change. That's why today, I'm going to show you exactly why you work hard but see no results and 5 rules of unbreakable consistency that will help you escape this trap forever. Why you work hard but see no results. 1. The invisible roots. When you start learning English or going to the gym, you expect results to follow a straight line. You work out one day, you get a little bit stronger. You study vocabulary for an hour, you become a little bit smarter. But reality doesn't work this way. Let me give you a powerful example that will change how you see progress forever. Imagine you plant a seed in the ground. On day 1, you water it carefully and look down at the soil. What do you see? Nothing. Just brown dirt staring back at you. Day 10 arrives. You've been watering faithfully every single day. You look down again, still nothing but that same patch of brown, lifeless earth. Most people would quit around day 15 because they don't see any progress. They think, I must be doing something wrong. The seed is dead. This is pointless. But here's the truth they don't understand. The plant isn't dead. It's growing, just not where you can see it. Underground, that seed is developing an extensive root system. It's building the foundation that will eventually support a mighty tree. This is what scientists call silent progress, the invisible improvements happening beneath the surface. When you learn 10 new vocabulary words and forget them the next day, you're not failing. Your brain is building neural connections, creating pathways that will serve you later. If you quit during this silent phase, you're essentially digging up the seed right before it's ready to sprout. 2. The compound effect. How tiny actions create massive results. Here's a fundamental law of success. One small action, standing alone, appears worthless, but when these actions compound over time, they become an unstoppable force. Picture a single drop of water falling on a massive stone. Can one drop break the rock? Of course not. It's far too weak. What about 100 drops? Still, nothing visible happens. The stone remains dry and unchanged. But what if 1 billion drops of water fell on exactly the same spot, day after day, month after month? Eventually, even the hardest stone would develop a hole. This is the power of persistence over strength, consistency over intensity. Let me show you how this applies to your life. Reading one page of a book today won't make you noticeably smarter. It's like that single drop of water, seemingly insignificant. But reading one page every day for 5 years, that's 1,825 pages, which could be 4 to 6 complete books. Suddenly, you possess a wealth of knowledge that sets you apart from the crowd. Learning 5 English words today won't transform your communication skills immediately. But learning 5 words daily for 1 year gives you 1,825 new words, enough to dramatically improve your English fluency and confidence. The message is clear. Don't underestimate small actions like exercising for 5 minutes or studying for 10 minutes. The power doesn't lie in the action itself. The power lies in the habit that never stops. Third building, unshakable self-trust. Let me ask you a personal question. Why do you sometimes feel insecure or weak? Is it because you don't have enough money? Is it because you're not smart enough? The real reason might surprise you. You feel weak because you've become someone who breaks promises to yourself. Here's how it works psychologically. Every time you set your alarm for 6 a.m. but hit snooze and sleep until 8, you're teaching your brain a dangerous lesson. You're saying, "My words have no weight. I can't trust what I say." Every time you promise yourself you'll exercise today but end up watching Netflix instead, you're eroding your self-respect piece by piece. Your subconscious mind keeps score of these broken promises, and eventually it reaches a conclusion. This person can't be trusted, even by themselves. But here's the beautiful opposite. Every time you say, "I'll do 5 push-ups," and then get down and do exactly 5, even when you're exhausted, you're proving to your brain that you're someone who follows through. You're building what I call self-trust. The greatest reward of consistency isn't bigger muscles or more money. The greatest reward is self-respect. It's the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and know without a doubt that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. This transforms how you walk, how you talk, how you present yourself to the world. You carry yourself with quiet confidence because you know you can count on yourself. 5 rules of unbreakable consistency. Now that you understand why small actions compound into massive results, let me give you the exact blueprint for building unstoppable consistency. These 5 rules will work even if you consider yourself lazy or unmotivated. Rule 1. Micro-habits. Start ridiculously small. Start so small that it would be foolish not to do it. Most people fail because they set goals that sound impressive but are actually setting themselves up for failure. Instead of trying to exercise for 1 hour, commit to 5 minutes. Instead of doing 50 push-ups, start with 5. Why does this work? Because the biggest enemy of consistency isn't lack of time or energy, it's the mental resistance to getting started. Scientists call this activation energy, the initial effort required to begin any task. When you make your habit impossibly small, you eliminate almost all activation energy. It becomes easier to do the habit than to make excuses about why you can't. Here are some examples of micro-habits. Instead of, "I'll read for an hour," try, "I'll read 1 page." Instead of, "I'll meditate for 20 minutes," try, "I'll take 3 deep breaths." Instead of, "I'll study English for 2 hours," try, "I'll learn 1 new word." The magic happens when you realize that once you start, you often naturally continue. You read 1 page and find yourself reading 10. You do 5 push-ups and end up doing 20. Remember that even if you stick to just the minimum, you're building the habit pattern in your brain. Rule 2. When and where. Stop wasting energy on making decisions. One of the biggest productivity killers is having to decide when and where to do your habits. Every decision requires mental energy, and by the end of the day, your willpower is depleted. The solution is to use what psychologists call implementation intentions. This is a simple formula. I will, action at time in location. For example, I will read 2 pages at 9 p.m. on my living room sofa. I will practice English vocabulary at 7 a.m. at my kitchen table. I will do 10 push-ups immediately after I brush my teeth in my bedroom. Notice how specific these statements are. There's no room for confusion or negotiation. Your brain doesn't have to waste energy deciding anything. It simply follows the predetermined plan. A famous study published in the British Journal of Health Psychology found that shows that people who use implementation intentions are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through on their goals compared to those who just have general intentions. So, stop guessing. Set the time and place once and make your success automatic. Rule 3. Track your progress visually. Make your progress visible and addictive. This technique was made famous by comedian Jerry Seinfeld, and it's devastatingly effective. Here's how it works. Get a wall calendar and a red marker. Every day you complete your habit, mark a big red X on that day. After a few days, you'll have a chain of X's. Your job is simple. Don't break the chain. This works because of several psychological principles. First, it provides immediate satisfaction. Instead of waiting months to see results, you get an instant reward, that satisfying feeling of marking an X. Second, it creates what psychologists call loss aversion. Once you have a chain of several X's, the thought of breaking it becomes psychologically painful. You'll find yourself doing your habit just to avoid the disappointment of a broken chain. Third, it turns your habit into a game. Humans love games, especially ones where we can see our progress clearly. You can do this digitally too, using apps or spreadsheets, but there's something particularly powerful about the physical act of marking a calendar on your wall. It's visible, tangible, and impossible to ignore. When you see how far you have come, you won't want to give up. Rule 4. Never miss twice. Stay flexible but accountable. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new negative habit. Life isn't perfect. You'll get sick, travel for work, or face unexpected emergencies. The key isn't to never miss a day. It's to never miss 2 days in a row. Here's why this rule is so important. Your brain is constantly looking for patterns. If you miss one day, your brain categorizes it as an exception. But if you miss 2 days in a row, your brain starts to think, maybe we don't actually do this thing anymore. On days when you're exhausted or pressed for time, don't abandon your habit completely. Instead, do the minimum viable version. If you normally exercise for 30 minutes but you're swamped with work, do 5 minutes of stretching. If you usually read 10 pages but you're traveling, read 1 paragraph on your phone. If you typically practice English for an hour but you're sick, listen to 1 English song. The goal isn't to maintain intensity, it's to maintain the habit. You're teaching your brain that this habit happens regardless of circumstances. Some days it's big, some days it's tiny, but it always happens. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be done. Rule 5. Dopamine reward. Celebrate small wins. Immediately. Train your brain to crave habit completion. Your brain is motivated by pleasure and reward. If doing your habit feels like punishment, you won't stick with it long term. But if you can make it feel rewarding, your brain will start to crave it. The key is to celebrate immediately after completing your habit, no matter how small. This could be listening to your favorite song after exercising, enjoying a special tea after reading, doing a little victory dance after studying, checking off your habit on a satisfying to-do list. The celebration doesn't need to be big or expensive. It just needs to be immediate and pleasant. You're essentially creating a positive feedback loop. Habit completion leads to good feelings, which makes you want to complete the habit again tomorrow. Some people worry that external rewards will undermine intrinsic motivation, but research shows this isn't true for habit formation. In fact, these small celebrations help wire the habit into your brain's reward system, eventually making the habit itself feel rewarding. You are not just doing a task, you are teaching your brain to fall in love with the effort. The science behind why this works. Understanding. The science behind consistency will help you trust the process, especially during the inevitable moments when you want to quit. How your brain rewires itself. Every time you repeat an action, your brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with that action. Think of it like walking through a forest. The first time you walk through, you have to push through bushes and branches. It's difficult and energy intensive. But if you walk the same path every day, something magical happens. The grass gets worn down, the path becomes clearer, and eventually you have a well-defined trail that's easy to follow. Your habits work the same way. The first few times you do something, it requires conscious effort and willpower. But with repetition, the neural pathway becomes so strong that the behavior starts to feel automatic. Research by Dr. Anne Graybiel at MIT shows that habit formation actually changes the physical structure of your brain. The more you repeat a behavior, the more myelin builds up around the neural pathways, making them faster and more efficient. This is why consistency beats intensity. Doing something small every day creates stronger neural pathways than doing something big occasionally. The identity shift, becoming versus doing. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of consistency is how it changes your identity. Most people focus on what they want to achieve, but the real magic happens when you focus on who you want to become. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. If you exercise today, you're voting to be an athletic person. If you read today, you're voting to be an educated person. If you practice English today, you're voting to be a fluent speaker. The beautiful thing is that you don't need a majority of votes to start identifying as that type of person. Research shows that people begin to adopt new identities after surprisingly few repetitions. When you consistently do push-ups, you start to see yourself as someone who exercises. When you consistently read, you become a reader. When you consistently practice English, you become someone who speaks English well. This identity shift is crucial because it makes the behavior self-reinforcing. You don't exercise because you have to. You exercise because that's who you are. The behavior becomes part of your self-concept, not just something you do. The compound effect in real life. Let me show you some real-world examples of how small, consistent actions create extraordinary results. Warren Buffett didn't become wealthy from one brilliant investment. He became wealthy by consistently making good financial decisions for over 60 years. He once said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." Stephen King didn't become a best-selling author by writing one amazing book. He became successful by writing every single day, including holidays and weekends, for decades. His consistency has produced over 60 novels. Serena Williams didn't become a tennis champion from one great match. She became dominant through thousands of hours of consistent practice, starting when she was just 3 years old. The pattern is always the same. Small actions, repeated consistently over long periods, create results that seem impossible to outside observers. Overcoming common obstacles. Even with the best intentions and strategies, you'll face obstacles. Let me help you navigate the most common challenges so you can stay consistent even when life gets difficult. Obstacle 1. I don't have time. This is the most common excuse, and I understand why. Modern life is busy, and it feels like there's never enough time for personal development. But here's what I've learned after working with thousands of people. You don't need more time. You need better priorities. Let's do some math. If you spend just 15 minutes a day on a new habit, that's 105 minutes per week, or nearly 2 hours. Over a month, that's about 8 hours. In a year, that's 91 hours of focused practice, enough to develop real expertise in almost any skill. Can you find 15 minutes in your day? Most people spend more time than that scrolling social media or watching YouTube videos. The issue isn't time scarcity, it's priority confusion. Try this exercise. Track how you spend your time for 1 week. Write down everything in 15-minute blocks. You'll be shocked at how much dead time you have that could be redirected toward your goals. Obstacle 2. I don't feel motivated. Good. Motivation is unreliable anyway. If you only worked out when you felt motivated, you'd exercise maybe once a month. If you only studied when you felt inspired, you'd never develop expertise. The secret that successful people know is that motivation follows action, not the other way around. Start doing your habit, even if you don't feel like it, and motivation will often show up partway through. This happens because of a psychological principle called the progress principle. When we make progress on meaningful work, we feel more motivated to continue. Even tiny progress counts. So on days when you feel unmotivated, just commit to doing 1 minute of your habit. Tell yourself, I'll just start, and if I want to stop after 1 minute, I can. Most of the time, starting is the hardest part, and you'll naturally continue longer than planned. Obstacle 3. I'm too tired. Physical and mental fatigue are real challenges, especially in our high-stress world. But here's an interesting paradox. Consistent, small actions often give you more energy, not less. This happens for several reasons. First, regular exercise, even just 5 minutes, improves cardiovascular health and increases overall energy levels. Second, learning new skills stimulates your brain and can actually be energizing rather than draining. Third, the sense of accomplishment from keeping promises to yourself creates psychological energy that carries over into other areas of life. If you're genuinely exhausted, don't skip your habit entirely. Do a micro version instead. If you normally exercise for 30 minutes, do 5 minutes of stretching. If you usually read 10 pages, read 1 paragraph. The key is maintaining the pattern, not the intensity. Obstacle 4. I keep forgetting. Forgetting is usually a symptom of poor environment design, not poor memory. The solution is to make your habits impossible to forget by changing your physical environment. Here are some strategies. Visual cues. Put your exercise clothes next to your bed. Place books on your pillow. Put vocabulary flashcards next to your coffee maker. Habit stacking. Attach new habits to existing routines. After I brush my teeth, I will do 10 push-ups. After I pour my coffee, I will review 5 vocabulary words. Environmental design. Make good behaviors easier and bad behaviors harder. Put healthy snacks at eye level and junk food out of sight. Put your guitar where you can see it and your phone in another room. Obstacle 5. I don't see results fast enough. This is where understanding the compound effect becomes crucial. Results rarely appear as quickly as we'd like, but they compound exponentially once they start. Think about bamboo trees. For the first 4 years, bamboo grows only a few inches, but in the 5th year, it can grow up to 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Was the growth sudden? No. The tree was building a massive underground root system for 4 years to support that explosive growth. Your skills and habits work the same way. The first few months might feel slow, but you're building the foundation for exponential growth later. To stay motivated during the slow period, focus on process goals rather than outcome goals. Celebrate small wins along the way. Track leading indicators, like days practiced, rather than lagging indicators, like results achieved. Trust that compound growth is happening even when you can't see it. Let me share with you some powerful real-world examples that demonstrate exactly how the principles we've discussed today work in practice. These stories will help you see the incredible transformation that's possible when you embrace the power of small, consistent actions. Case Study 1. The English Student Who Changed Everything. Maria was a 28-year-old accountant from Brazil who dreamed of working for an international company. Her English was stuck at an intermediate level, and despite taking expensive courses for 3 years, she felt like she wasn't making real progress. She was trapped in the classic failure loop. She would study intensively for a few weeks, burn out, then take months-long breaks. Everything changed when Maria discovered the micro-habit approach. Instead of trying to study for 2 hours daily, she committed to just 5 minutes of English practice every morning while drinking her coffee. That's it, 5 minutes. Here's what her 5-minute routine looked like. She would read one paragraph from an English news article, look up any unfamiliar words, and write one sentence using a new word she learned. Some days she felt motivated and continued for longer, but she never pressured herself to do more than those 5 minutes. After 6 months of this simple routine, something remarkable happened. Maria's brain had become accustomed to thinking in English for those 5 minutes every day. She started thinking in English during her commute, watching English movies without subtitles, and even dreaming in English. 2 years later, Maria landed her dream job at a multinational corporation where her English skills were one of her strongest assets. When people ask her how she became fluent, they're often disappointed by her answer. I just read one paragraph and learned one word every day for 2 years. It sounds too simple to be true, but that's exactly the point. Case Study 2. The busy executive who found time. David was a 45-year-old executive who worked 60-hour weeks and traveled constantly for business. He had been wanting to get back in shape for years, but always felt like he didn't have time for proper workouts. His previous attempts involved expensive gym memberships and elaborate workout plans that lasted a few weeks at most. David's transformation began when he decided to do just one push-up every morning when he got out of bed. One push-up. His friends thought he was joking, but David understood something they didn't. He wasn't trying to get fit from one push-up. He was trying to become the type of person who exercises every day. After doing one push-up for 2 weeks, David naturally started doing 2 or 3. Within a month, he was doing 10 push-ups without thinking about it. By the 3rd month, he had added some squats and planks to his routine, still keeping everything under 5 minutes. The most important change wasn't physical, it was psychological. David began seeing himself as someone who prioritized health. This identity shift influenced other decisions throughout his day. He started taking the stairs instead of elevators, walking during phone calls, and making better food choices. 18 months later, David had completely transformed his body and energy levels. He was doing 30-minute workouts several times per week, had run his first half marathon, and felt more energetic than he had in decades. But it all started with that one ridiculous push-up every morning. Case Study 3. The struggling student who became a reader. Sarah was a college student who hated reading. She had struggled with focus and concentration her entire academic career, often feeling overwhelmed by the amount of reading required for her classes. She would procrastinate until the last minute, then try to read entire textbooks in marathon sessions, retaining almost nothing. Sarah's reading transformation began with 1 page per day, not 1 chapter or 1 article, literally 1 single page from any book she chose. She set a timer for the time it took to read 1 page, usually about 3 minutes, and stopped when the timer went off, even if she was in the middle of an interesting paragraph. This approach eliminated all the psychological resistance she had built up around reading. There was no pressure, no overwhelming time commitment. and no guilt if she didn't understand everything perfectly. Some days she read a page from a novel, other days from a textbook, and sometimes from a magazine or online article. After 3 months of reading just one page daily, Sarah noticed something incredible happening. Her attention span had gradually increased, and she found herself naturally wanting to read more. The neural pathways for sustained focus had been strengthened through consistent practice, even in such small doses. By her senior year, Sarah was reading multiple books per month and had become one of the top students in her program. Professors often commented on the depth and breadth of her knowledge. But Sarah knew the secret. She had become a reader by reading just one page at a time. Framework: your 30-day transformation plan. Now that you've seen how these principles work in real life, let me give you a practical framework for implementing them in your own life. This 30-day plan is designed to help you build unbreakable consistency without overwhelming yourself. Week 1. Foundation building. Choose one micro habit that takes less than 5 minutes and is so easy that it would be foolish not to do it. Write down exactly when and where you'll do this habit using the I will, action at time in location formula. For the first week, focus only on showing up. Don't worry about intensity or perfection. Week 2. Pattern recognition. Continue your micro-habit and begin tracking your progress visually. Get a calendar or notebook where you can mark an X for each day you complete your habit. Pay attention to how your energy levels and motivation fluctuate throughout the week. Notice that motivation isn't required for action. Action often creates motivation. Week 3. Flexibility testing. This week, you'll inevitably face obstacles, late nights, busy days, or unexpected challenges. Practice the never miss twice rule by doing a minimum viable version of your habit on difficult days. If you normally read for 5 minutes, read 1 paragraph. If you usually exercise for 5 minutes, do 1 minute of stretching. Week 4. Identity integration. By now, your habit should feel more automatic. Begin thinking of yourself as someone who does this activity. You're not someone who tries to read, you're a reader. You're not someone who attempts to exercise, you're someone who moves your body daily. This identity shift is crucial for long-term success. Once you've mastered the basics of consistency, here are some advanced strategies to accelerate your progress and maintain momentum over months and years. Habit stacking for compound growth. After successfully establishing one micro-habit for at least 30 days, you can begin stacking additional habits onto your existing routine. The key is to attach new habits to already established ones. For example, after I do my 5 push-ups, I will meditate for 2 minutes, or after I read 1 page, I will write 3 sentences in my journal. Environmental design mastery. As your habits become more established, invest time in optimizing your environment for success. This might mean setting up a dedicated reading corner, keeping healthy snacks at eye level, or putting your workout clothes next to your bed. Small environmental changes can dramatically reduce the activation energy required for your habits. Seasonal habit cycling. Instead of trying to maintain 10 different habits simultaneously, consider cycling through different focus areas throughout the year. Spend 3 months building a reading habit, then 3 months focusing on fitness, then 3 months on a creative skill. This approach allows you to make significant progress in multiple areas without spreading yourself too thin. Progress documentation. Keep a simple journal where you record not just whether you completed your habit, but how you felt afterward and what you learned. This creates a positive feedback loop and helps you see patterns in your motivation and energy levels. Over time, this documentation becomes powerful evidence of your growth and transformation. As we near the end of our journey today, I want to share with you the most important insight about consistency. The greatest reward isn't what you achieve, it's who you become in the process. And yeah, consistent action will help you learn faster, get healthier, advance your career, and achieve your goals. But these external results pale in comparison to the internal transformation that happens. When you consistently keep promises to yourself, you develop what psychologists call self-efficacy, the deep belief that you can handle whatever life throws at you. This confidence isn't based on false hope or positive thinking. It's based on evidence. You have proof that you can commit to something and follow through. This transformation affects every area of your life. You speak with more confidence because you know you're reliable. You take on bigger challenges because you trust your ability to persist. You inspire others through your example, not your words. You develop mental resilience that serves you during difficult times. You create a positive identity that shapes all your future decisions. Remember, your consistency doesn't just change you, it changes the people around you. When your family sees you consistently working toward your goals, they start to believe they can do the same. When your colleagues see your discipline, they raise their own standards. When your friends witness your transformation, they become inspired to start their own journeys. Success is not a destination, it's a way of traveling. It's not something you achieve once and then stop. It's something you embody every single day. Here's what I want you to understand. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to wait for Monday or next month or next year. Success isn't about the person who runs fastest for 1 week. Success belongs to the person who is still walking after 1 year. Remember this truth. Motivation gets you started, but consistency gets you finished. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. Start small, start today, and let the compound effect work its magic in your life. Success is not about dramatic transformations or overnight changes. It's about showing up every single day and doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it. Thank you for joining me today on Fluent English with Radio. If this video helped you understand the power of daily effort, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can build a community of people who understand that small actions, repeated consistently, change everything. Until next time, remember, consistency is the mother of mastery, and mastery is the path to the life you've always dreamed of living. Start small, start today. Your future self is counting on you.